Most men die having never lived, never having had a once-in-a-lifetime adventure, never having traveled the world, dined at the nicest restaurants, or enjoyed the company of women only available to them in their dreams. And they sit on their deathbed wishing they had lived a more fulfilled life. If that is you, it's time to make a change. I'm not half the man I used to be. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation. This was a poem that I heard a long time ago. And I can't remember who exactly it's from, but it rings so true. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Most men lead lives that when they're on their deathbed, they cannot honestly tell themselves that they lived every moment successfully. They lived every moment to the fullest. They did everything that they wanted to do in their life, and they have no regrets. Very few men are able to do that. And what separates men who fill or fulfill their life with worthwhile pursuits and men who don't? Well, I think it's men who actually understand this concept that you only have one life. You guys remember 2012 YOLO, you only live once? It was kind of corny and kind of goofy back then, but it does ring true. You only live once. So if you only live once, you should be filling that time that you have left on this earth with the things that you want to do with your life, whether that's traveling, whether that's starting a business, whether that's, having a family, whatever it is that you truly want to do deep in your heart, not what your parents told you should be doing, not what your friends told you should be doing, not what your boss thinks would be best for you. What you want to do with your life is how you go to the grave without feeling like you did not live to the fullest. You know, we live in a system that many people compare to the Matrix. And I would agree with that comparison because everybody is living such a average, normal, everyday life. They get up in the morning, they go to school or they go to work, they come back home, and they watch TV or they play video games, they surf the internet, and then they go to bed and they wake up and do it all over again the very next day. And I've never been a person who understood that. Have I participated in that system? Absolutely. Are there still aspects of that system that I still participate in? Absolutely. For a time, I think you have to. However, you have to have a plan to escape the matrix. Otherwise, you will wake up at 30 years old, like I did, and realize I was not living up to my fullest potential. Now, I realized that earlier. I realized that honestly, every couple years, I realized that and make an adjustment. When I was 26 years old, I realized that although I had a really good job, I was a managing partner for a restaurant, I was making $75,000 a year, I was driving a Corvette, I was living a great life at 26 years old. But I realized that there was more out there for me. I didn't want to just live in Houston, Texas and drive to work every day and go partying and go back to work the next day. I wanted something different. I wanted to live somewhere tropical. I wanted to have a beach nearby. I wanted to live in a high-rise condo. I wanted to be around people who were making money and making moves. And for me, that was Miami. I quit my great job. I continued to build my online business. It was an apparel company. And I moved to Miami. At the time, people thought I was crazy. Had a great job, had a great car, had a great spot. And it seemed from the outside looking in, according to society standards, that I was doing very well. But I was unfulfilled internally. And so I left everything to move to Miami. And did I have the money to sustain the lifestyle that I tried to live there? Absolutely not. I got a high-rise apartment in downtown Miami, Brickell area, if you're familiar with the area, beautiful, great area to be in, lots of stuff happening. Had a rooftop pool, tons of people there. The apartment complex that I was in was paying $2,000 a month for rent, which was far higher than any rent I had ever paid. And honestly, it was more than I could afford. But I knew I was getting rid of my car. I sold my Corvette to move there. And I worked online. I worked on my online business. And between that and credit cards, I made it happen for about 6 months. And I had amazing experiences while I was there. I met some great people, did some awesome things, went to some amazing restaurants, beaches, parties, met some beautiful women. I lived it up for 6 months and I got that out of my system, so to speak. I was able to experience those things because I wasn't afraid to let go of what I already had. And what happens is as you get older, you become more risk averse. You don't want to take the risks because you get comfortable. And I knew at that time, at that age, if I didn't take a risk at that point, I may never end up doing it. And so in the end, I had to move back to Houston and go back to my job. But I would never trade that experience for anything else because it's one of the things that molded me and shaped me as a man. And it showed me that there was other things out there for my life. So if you're a young man watching this video, or even someone a little bit older in your 30s and your 40s, and you've never done something like that, I encourage you to do it because it will change your life. It'll open your mind up to the possibilities of other ways to live. You don't have to work a 9 to 5 job every day. You don't have to go buy a house. You don't have to go get an expensive car note. Those are things that the system wants you to do to keep you trapped on the hamster wheel. So then a couple years later, I had moved up again in the company, was making more money. And I felt that calling to go do something else. I felt as if I was trapped in these four walls of the restaurant all day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 or 7. And I said, man, there's more out there for me. And I got into financial services, selling life insurance and investments, got my securities license, my life insurance license. And I did that full time for 2 years. And the freedom that that gave me over having a structured 60-hour work week was incredible. It was incredible. I got to go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I got to work from home. I got to work from the office. All I needed was my iPad and Wi-Fi to close deals. I learned a bunch about personal finance that I hadn't known before because I was making good money at my job before, but I was just blowing it all on cars. I was blowing it all on car parts, going out, partying. I learned so many financial principles that I was able to not only help others with, but apply them to my life by joining this financial services company. And then after several years of doing that full time, my team kind of fell apart. My income dropped. I had to move back in with my parents and I had to regroup, reinvent myself again. And reinventing yourself over and over and over again is crucial to leveling up in life. Now, you don't have to go broke every time to reinvent yourself. I honestly suggest that you don't do that. But I would say at least every 12 months, you need to sit down. And I like to get away. I like to go rent an Airbnb somewhere, get away from my normal day-to-day environment, somewhere I can think, somewhere I can have some inspiration. And I can plan out my next 12 months and I can plan out how I'm going to reinvent myself this time. And honestly, every time that it happens, I level up and become a better version of myself. Whereas if you stay in the matrix, you are the same person every single year. That's why when you go on social media, people say, oh, new year, new me. And then you look 2 months later and they're doing the same thing they were doing last year. There was no reinvention. There was no change. There was no risk being taken. So if you want to get to the next level, if you're unsatisfied with your life, if you want to make a change, I've created a program called the Discipline Reset Protocol. It will take you from where you are today as a man and in 90 days completely transform you. And this is the foundation of you getting a better life because it all starts with discipline. It all starts with discipline and it all starts with your physical appearance because the way people see you is the way they will treat you.